Manchester United played reasonably well and won a game. That's right, I'll say it again. We played reasonably well and actually won a game. 3-2 against Newcastle United. And, you know, it's a fairly positive performance. So we are going to get straight into things, talking about the tactical setup, the tactical approach. Basically, what we saw in the game and how Manchester United won by carrying, in my opinion, a slightly bigger threat in the final third. We'll also cover some of the downsides of the performance as well, because of course it wasn't perfect. We'll start off with the deep phases of play when United are looking to play out from the back. Are we really looking to play out from the back? We'll soon see. So on these goal kicks, sometimes we're going to force the team upfield and send it long. Sometimes we're going to drop the two centre-backs deep either side of the goalkeeper. Now from here, what we would then see is at times Amrabat dropping in alone. Sometimes Kobbie Mainoo would join him. And Dalot tended to push a little bit further forward, particularly in the first half. The aim being, I believe, to take Murphy with him, creating a kind of a smaller game, if you like, in these deeper areas of the pitch. So United would kind of draw these Newcastle players onto us. And then once we kind of draw them on, we'd then play long, looking to go over it. Not feeling that with the likes of Johnny Evans, Casemiro, we really have the ability to play out from the back. Instead, we're going to go long. At times, it worked. We got on the first ball with either Bruno Fernandes or Scott McTominay. And then we also got on the second ball as well with Amrabat and Kobbie Mainoo. At times, it didn't go so well. So let's quickly cover that. If I move over to Want Video Analyzer, which, by the way, guys, check it out. Link in the description. It's a really good software. You guys know it by now. There's also an update as well, which I will talk about shortly. But anyway, we can see United, Manchester United that is, have kind of played the ball out from the back a little bit here. We've played a few passes around the back, and eventually it's gone to Onana. Newcastle have been drawn onto us. Onana then chooses to send the ball longer towards the right-hand side. Scott McTominay wins the header and actually, on this occasion, spins in behind, chases his own flick on, gets into a really good area. That's the benefit of long ball football. You draw the opposition onto you, opens up a lot of space, you can go long, you can go over the press. Really good, really effective. We also, though, in this game, saw the downside of it. For example, early on in the second half, the ball has gone long from Manchester United. We don't win the first ball. We also don't win the second ball in midfield. Suddenly, Newcastle are right on our back line, and quickly they put the ball in the back of the net. So right there, in this game, we have seen the positive and the negative of long ball football. At times it works. You go past the press and you attack the space. At times, it doesn't go so well. It doesn't go so well. The positives for United in this game were obviously when it did go well and when we did get on the second ball. Because when we got on the second ball with Kobbie Mainoo and Sofiane Amrabat in midfield, we then actually settled into quite a nice possession shape at times and a retention-based idea in possession from Manchester United. So of course the centre-backs are now going to come higher. And again, the important thing is someone like Sofiane Amrabat is taking his time on the ball, slowing it down once we win the second ball, allowing us to get into our shape, which looks like this really. Kind of a 2-3-2-3 shape, if you like, with the fullbacks either side of Amrabat, still reasonably wide, and then the two higher midfielders, and then our front three with Bruno Fernandes as a false nine. As you can see in the average positions, it was nice to see quite a clear idea of what we are trying to do. So how does this actually play out on the pitch? Well, at times we would progress the ball through the middle. Sofiane Amrabat, Kobbie Mainoo, McTominay, Bruno dropping deep as well. Overload. 4 versus 3 in the middle of the pitch here. That's good. We play through these areas. But other times we would work the ball wide, as United tend to do. We do like wide progression. So say Evans might have the ball, we go to Dalot. Now we see the effect of having this 2-3 shape and the usage of the fullbacks in particular. Because as Newcastle come over, like this for example, they're trying to get over to us and apply pressure in these areas of the pitch. Let's say Gordon might have tucked in a little bit deeper to cover the midfield, or he might have done something like this. What we can see is that it's going to open up space for someone like Wan-Bissaka. So if United show the technical quality, which we do in moments because we have some good players, we are able to work the ball across the pitch, find a free man, and then step forward from here. And of course, once again, we do have an example of this if we go to here. So Kobbie Mainoo is going to end up with the ball on the left-hand side of the pitch with Garnacho as well. Kobbie Mainoo is going to turn. We can see that a lot of Newcastle players are drawn onto us. What we can also see, though, is that the far side Newcastle player, the far side winger, is being drawn towards Bruno Fernandes, which is going to mean that as the ball goes to Bruno, Wan-Bissaka actually has quite a lot of time. So we can then turn, play in this area. Wan-Bissaka can step forward with the ball. This ball kind of gets flicked over. Now we can carry the ball forward and we've got space. And this is, again, good ball progression. That's good from United. I did like this side of the game. I thought we'd done it quite well. Once we then got into these forward areas, it was all about the wingers, particularly Amad Diallo. I thought he had a really good game. Excellent first touch, good control, kind of taking the ball initially out wide on his first touch, and then that second touch often taking the ball inside the pitch. Wan-Bissaka may then overlap him at times, or even one of the midfielders could do it. But the important thing was, we were able to get 2 versus 1 up against Hall on this side, and at times, although not so much, Trippier on the other side as well with Garnacho and Dalot. This is quite effective because it just allows us to overload that last line. So let's move Fernandes up here. Let's say Scott McTominay's joined the attack as well. Of course, Newcastle are going to retreat naturally. But it allowed United to get into these positions where by playing quite quickly, you know, retention initially and then speeding it up, we've got into a 2 versus 1 situation down this side of the pitch. And again, it could happen on the other side. And again, I quite like it in terms of effective attacking play. I think it's quite good. And again, if we move on to a situation like this, we can see that. So the ball is central initially, but what we are creating is almost a little 3v3 at times, sometimes a 4v3, a 2v3 in these wide areas. Again, I've said it a lot recently, they're like mini rondo training drills. And when you have quality players, the ball eventually goes back to Casemiro. You can see the ability to get to this 2 versus 1 situation. So the ball goes wide to Wan-Bissaka, and Lewis Hall, the left back, can't deal with both players. So the ball's going to go wide to Wan-Bissaka, then come back inside to Ahmad, who's going to get on the turn, get towards the final third, and I think he ends up having a shot at goal on this occasion. But again, it's actually pretty good attacking play. United have progressed the ball pretty well. However, there is still one man in particular we need to talk about in possession, and that is Bruno Fernandes. So why do we need to talk about Bruno Fernandes? Well, because he drifted into all sorts of different areas on the pitch and actually had the most touches in a Manchester United shirt, and for me was influential. And I think it came from a good tactical decision from Ten Hag. Something we spoke about in the Discord server, by the way, before the game. If you want to join the Discord, there will be a link in the description. Check it out. You'll see some of my last minute thoughts in there. This was something I said about the weakness we could target in the Newcastle side. And that is Guimaraes sometimes being caught high. And with Bruno Fernandes playing as a false 9, the centre-backs don't always want to go and follow him, which opens up this little bit of space in front of here. So if we progress the ball wide, it might be Ahmad, it might be Wan-Bissaka, it might be Garnacho, it might be Dalot. Whoever it may be, we progress the ball wide, and naturally Newcastle want to shift. Let's say the ball's over this side. Naturally, they want to shift ball side. There were pockets where Bruno Fernandes could drift in here, behind Guimaraes in this space, but also ahead of the centre-backs. The centre-backs didn't want to go follow him, and it allowed us to get Bruno on the ball. And Bruno on the ball equals success. That's a brilliant thing, to get Bruno Fernandes this high up the pitch, on the ball, able to turn and have runners. Whether that's Garnacho bombing around on the overlap, whether that's McTominay, or when he's on this side, we might have Ahmad going forward, something like that. Really, really good. Bruno Fernandes getting a lot of the ball in this space. It was genius from Ten Hag. I really liked it. I really, really liked this side of the game. And as you can imagine, once again, we do have a clip of it. If I can find it, I've got so many clips to go through in this game. Here we are. So, this is what we're looking at. Initially, Bruno Fernandes kind of making this dummy run in behind. He's 1 versus 1 with a centre-back in this situation. You know, they are duelling each other. Bruno's going in behind, so the centre-back adjusts his run accordingly and tries to track Bruno Fernandes. What Bruno does last minute is he drops deeper. So we can see now he's going to be in this hole of space. He's behind the Newcastle midfield, but he's in front of the centre-backs. And they just didn't know how to deal with this. And it's because he started up front, like a false 9 almost, then dropped into this role. And it worked so well. It allows him to get into this space here, receive the ball, and then from here he's brilliant. He can bring Garnacho in, who struggled a little bit at times, but at least we got him a good amount of the ball in these areas. Really, really effective, and it kept happening. It kept happening. Again, we've got a situation here. Bruno Fernandes is behind Bruno Guimaraes, who we've got marked here, and he's ahead of the centre-backs. He's in these bits of space where centre-backs don't really want to go, and particularly centre-backs who aren't used to playing centre-back. Guimaraes isn't following him. It gets Bruno into pockets, and Bruno, again, in these areas, is brilliant. He's got this ability to lift the ball over the defence, and it goes through to Garnacho on this occasion, but it didn't quite work out. But again, it's getting players in these pockets. And then here's another example. Again, we've worked the ball out wide initially, and then we've gone back inside into the midfield, back inside the pitch. So outside, almost around Newcastle, and then back in. So Ahmad plays to Scott McTominay. It's brilliant from Ahmad, by the way. Scott McTominay gets the ball, and you can see we've got Bruno Fernandes and McTominay now in this corridor of space, behind the Newcastle midfield, ahead of the centre-backs. It worked really effectively. On this occasion, McTominay goes for the long ball over to Garnacho. We get into the final third. Again, it doesn't quite come off. But it actually worked really effectively, I felt. Really, really effectively. And I enjoyed this side of the game from United in this game. It allowed us to move the ball forward. It allowed us to progress and carry a threat without playing too much of a gung-ho approach, without overturning possession for the sake of it. Again, particularly with the likes of Amrabat, Mainu a little bit deeper, kind of being retention-based players. It then allowed these forward players to take those risks in the final third, but they felt like measured risks. And even if we did lose the ball, a lot of the time we were able to win it back fairly quick. Why? Minimum width, something we spoke about recently. When you attack, let's say you're down the left-hand side, when you attack down the left-hand side, you get players over that side of the pitch. I spoke about it recently, the importance of Ten Hag doing this and why he could look to do it more. When your right winger, rather than, you know, kind of hugging the touchline on the right-hand side, comes in here. He comes into these areas. Again, of course, we've got an example of it. Here, for example, right, United could have an incredibly wide right winger, even though the ball's on the left, but they don't. They move the player inside and condense the pitch. Condense the pitch, putting all the Manchester United players quite near each other, so when we lose the ball, we can win it back quite quickly. When it works, it looks something like this. So we've just lost possession. Newcastle get the ball back in the middle of the park, but we've got our players central. This is our right winger here, Ahmad. Central. We've got all our players central, ready to get around the ball and try and win it back. So when the ball eventually goes backwards to Bruno Guimaraes, I believe, the United players are right there. That's the effective use of minimum width. If you want to know more about minimum width, I've got a video on the channel. In terms of this video, we're not going to cover it too in depth, but yeah, again, that was a side of the game I liked. And on the ball in general, aside from the long goal kicks, which I don't enjoy, but I understand why we do it. Still don't like it, but I understand. That aside, I thought we had a pretty good game on the ball. I think Garnacho perhaps struggled with end product a little bit in the final third, and again, separation from his fullback, but he's a young player, we know we expect that. In general, the team performance I thought looked really good on the ball. Out of possession, still a few concerns. One of the concerns was when we tried to press, because what we're trying to do when we press is essentially lock Newcastle to one side of the pitch and force them to play long. Get on the second ball and play from there. We didn't do it very well though. We didn't really lock Newcastle in, because as the ball would go one way, so we've got United kind of in like a 4-4-2 here. As the ball would go one way, let's say it's Trippier, United are going to come over like this perhaps, right? Ahmad might come in on Dan Burn, for example, but because we don't press with a great intensity once we're there, right? We don't press with a real grit to our game. Newcastle have a little bit of time to pick a pass, and when you do that, it's a bit of an issue, because Trippier here would often then go back to the goalkeeper, to Dubravka, or perhaps McTominay might be there and he'd go inside to the centre-back instead. But it allowed Newcastle to kind of come back inside and then go out the other side and get round our press. So that was one concern I did have. Fortunately, United done a reasonably good job from there of then kind of collapsing back, recognising that we can't continue with the press, that instead we need to kind of shift into more of this 4-2-2. At times it's more of a 4-1-4-1. A few different shapes, but we did at least recognise that cue to then drop in. When we're in this shape, again, like the Arsenal game, I think we look a little bit better. We had McTominay and Bruno Fernandes doing a good job of stopping passes into midfield, particularly Guimaraes. Say if Dan Burn had the ball, Guimaraes would be looking to receive. I felt that McTominay done a really good job of following him. So we've got United in that sort of shape here. It's kind of a 4-4-2 shape. McTominay is high with Bruno Fernandes, but the team is slowly dropping off back towards our own goal. But the important thing is we're going to block the centre of the pitch. We're going to stop Bruno Guimaraes again. If we quickly mark him, we're going to stop Guimaraes from getting on the ball and really dictating the game. That's the important thing here. And we can see the usage, by the way, of the new tool from Once Video Analyzer, recent update. Definitely check it out in the description, because what it allows us to do now is kind of see what players are seeing. So we can look at Scott McTominay here. What he does really well is he keeps scanning. He keeps checking his shoulder and he's looking for this movement from Guimaraes. We can see Guimaraes is now making the movement across. What McTominay done well was he kept his head on the swivel. Keep looking, he's kind of taking in information, trying to see where Guimaraes is, making sure that he is always in a position to intercept this pass. This passing angle, this passing lane is closed. Because McTominay does that little bit of work, just scanning, looking around him, it stops that ball into midfield. It's really, really simple, but just that bit of knowledge from Scott McTominay, just taking in that information, allows him to kind of shuffle across and stop Newcastle from getting the ball in that area. Did Newcastle still carry threats? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely throughout the game. They had quite a high XG at the end of the game. They had some very, very good opportunities, some very good chances as well. But I don't want to focus on that today. Today I did want to focus on the in-possession side of things, but also the higher press from United as well. So let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And again, like I said, check out that Once Video Analyzer, new tool. It's worth it. It's really good. And particularly when we look at copy menu and scanning, we'll probably use it quite a lot in the future. In terms of this video, we are finished there. So let me know what you think and what you thought, I guess, of the game. How well did Manchester United play? What were the good parts of the game? What were the bad parts of the game? Who impressed you? Who disappointed you a little bit? Personally, I really enjoyed the performance of Amrabat, of Bruno Fernandes, and of Ahmad on the right wing. I thought those three played brilliantly. But there's some other good performance as well. Casemiro had a couple of clutch moments, although maybe still not a great all-round game. In general, though, I think Manchester United played a good game. We got the win, and it's nice to feel a little bit positive about the club. So we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.